Right, hello everybody, thanks for joining me. As you can see, it's a bit murky in Ardross today. Started out a beautiful sunny morning and then the mist rolled in. I'm hoping it'll be a bit clearer down the road. I'm heading down to Inverness again to pick up my heated grips for Bobby. Just hang on while I concentrate on this muddy mess. Yeah, so I'm going to Inverness to pick up the heated grips and then I can get on with getting Bobby ready for my trip to Cornwall. I'm setting off on Tuesday, so I've got a series of 6 300-mile days to do, roughly 300 miles per day, 3 days down, 3 days back. Once we get a bit further down the road, we'll have a chat about my project bike. I'm not going to have time to do an in-depth video on the project bike before I go to Cornwall. I've got too much to do to get ready for that trip. And as I said, it was all a bit unexpected, so it's kind of thrown my plans out the window. Other plans that I had anyway. So I'm using the A9 to get to Mitchell's as quickly as reasonably possible without going through Inverness itself, because I don't want to be coming back in the dark again. I haven't had a chance to get a new bulb for Daffy yet. I got the bulb for Bobby, the LED bulb. I put it in, and it's definitely brighter than the filament bulb, but I haven't taken him out on the road yet, so I can't say how much better it is. I've got the bracket for the spotlights made, got the spotlights mounted on that, and made the mounting points on Bobby to attach the bracket to. All I need to do now is connect up the wires, and I haven't bothered doing that yet because I'm waiting to get the heated grips, and then I'll do all the wiring in one go. And that will be Bobby more or less ready to go. I've got to cover him in ACF 50 yet, but I'll get that done tomorrow hopefully. Tomorrow or Sunday. And then Tuesday I'm on the road. Okay, so let's have a chat about the project bike. Some of you will already know what it is because I put a picture up of the bike at the end of my previous video, right at the end of it. So if you watch to the end, you'll have seen it. And that picture was taken in spring 1973. I'd had the bike for about 6 months. I got the bike in September 1972. And I've still got it, would you believe? 51 years later and I've still got it. don't know how, because a lot's happened in the last 51 years. So as I said, I got it in 1972 when I was 18, just after my 18th birthday. And I was working for the GPO at the time. I was a trainee telephone engineer. So I could just about afford to make the payments on it. Of course, there was no way I was going to get a hire purchase agreement myself. My dad signed the hire purchase agreement and I made the payments. Well, I made most of them. So I was using it from 1972 up until 1981. There was a bit of a gap in between. It's done 25,000 miles roughly. I say roughly because the speedo cable broke at one point and it took me ages to get it sorted out. So I don't know, it maybe did a few hundred miles without the speedo cable connected. It was off the road in 1975 for a while, and during that time I stripped it completely. Repainted the frame, repainted the tank and the panels and a few other bits and pieces, and took the engine apart. Well, I took the top end apart just to have a look because I was feeling nosy. So in 1981 it was taken off the road, and the reason for that was I couldn't afford to keep it on the road. I was married with a family and we needed transport, and I couldn't afford two forms of transport, so the bike had to go into storage basically. And at that time, some of you will remember the 1980s as the time when the oil revenue was squandered on smashing the unions and creating mass unemployment. You look at what Norway did with the wealth they got from North Sea oil. They used it for the benefit of the population, and they're still benefiting from it now. Sorry, I'm ranting, but thinking about that time brings back memories. I was unemployed for 5 years. It was impossible for me to get a job up here. I was living here by then. I was settled here, and because there was so little work, the oil rig construction had finished by then, more or less, and there were a lot of people who had moved up here for that. So there was huge unemployment in this area, and of course, not being local, I was last in the queue when it came to getting a job, which is fair enough. I'm not complaining about that. Not complaining about that at all. So anyway, to get back to the point, so I was unemployed for 5 years. The bike sat in a barn, and during that 5 years I basically taught myself how to program computers, and in 1988 I set up my own business because it was the only way I was going to be able to earn any money. And once I set up my own business, I had no time for anything. I certainly had no time to get the bike back on the road, because by that time it was already needing fairly serious attention. So it stayed off the road, and I stayed busy right through till 2005, when I eventually had a bit of spare time and a bit of money. So I thought, I'll get the Honda back on the road. So here's some pictures of what it looked like in 2005, just before I started taking it apart. And as you can see, it's in a bit of a state after being stored in barns for the best part of, well, over 20 years. 24 years, 2005, since it was last on the road. As you can see, it's got dunce stalls on it. They went on it about 18 months after I bought it, because the original science has just rotted away. Anybody who had one will know all about that. They just rotted away. Made from mild steel, thin mild steel. I think the chrome was stronger than the steel. And those dunce stalls, they're actually paper thin in that photograph. By that time they were paper thin. When I came to take them off, they just felt a bit. It was only the chrome that was holding them together. And as you can see, it doesn't have a standard paint job on it. It was originally a gold and black one. And when I took it off the road in 1975, I also did that paint job. So that's it. That's the bike in 2005, and I did start taking it apart, but then I got really busy with work again. In fact, busier than I had been previously, because I was doing IT support work for local businesses, and I was also doing programming work prior to 2005, and then in 2005 I got another major programming job to do, and that just snowballed over the next 15 years. So I had no time at all to deal with the Honda. So finally we come up to date, and I thought I had more time because I thought I was semi-retired, and at the moment I more or less am. Taking one customer back on again is not going to take a major chunk out of my time, but I do have to spend some time getting them back up to speed and updating the software to suit their particular requirements and so on. So I will be quite busy for the next few months. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little bit at a time on the Honda. I'm going to force myself to do a little bit at a time, just to keep the ball rolling. I want to get the ball rolling to start off with now, and then keep it rolling, even if it's only, I'm going to do a tiny little bit each week. And then eventually I want it to look more or less what it looked like when I first bought it. Now I know, I mean, even now it's not a particularly valuable bike. I don't know, a decent one's maybe £4,000 or £5,000, something like that. I don't know, I haven't looked for a while. But that's not what's important to me. What's important to me is that it's the first new bike that I ever owned when I was a young lad, and my dad helped me buy it. My dad's long gone, and I'd like to get it back to where it was. So dealing with the engine is the thing that's going to take the biggest amount of time and cost the most money. That and the exhaust system. I'm going to have to buy a new exhaust system, and last time I checked you could still get hold of a pattern set of silencers, exhaust and silencers for the 504, but it's a long time since I last checked. Well, it was 2005 when I last checked, and I put together a list of all the parts I needed and priced them up at David Silver, and it came to about £2,000 back then, so it's certainly not going to be any cheaper now. So here's a picture of what it should look like. This is from a Honda advert that was in, I think it must have been Motorcycle News back in the 1970s. So that's what I want mine to look like, more or less. Obviously it's not going to be perfect, as I said. I want to keep as many parts from the original bike as I can, so if that means there's going to be a little bit of pitted chrome and the odd scrape and scratch here and there, well, that's the way it's got to be. Okay, that's the heated grips. Got some chain lube and some chain cleaner. Now, I'm not used to this chain business. All my bikes have had shaft drive for the last 10 years or so. By the way, when I was at Mitchell's there, I was putting the heated grips and the chain lube and cleaner into the pannier on the left hand side here, and one of the hinges snapped on the pannier. So this is exactly why I don't want to take Daffy all the way to Cornwall and back, because there may be a few other little bits and pieces like that that will crop up over the next wee while till I get used to using her. Last thing you need is your pannier hanging off halfway to Cornwall. That would not be good. Right folks, I'm going to sign off now. And next time I speak to you, I'll probably be on the road to Cornwall. And I'll give you another update on Honda once I get back from Cornwall and get a chance to get it out of the back of the workshop. But until then, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing if you have done, thanks for your comments and your likes, and I'll speak to you on the next one. Bye for now.